We're going to start on page 157 in grammar. 157.
Wait, 157?
157. Yep.
Didn't we already do that page?
Did we do that page? Hold on. Did we do this page already?
Yeah, you gave us the grammar assignment of 160 to 162 for our homework.
I wonder why I keep messing up on that. I feel like I keep doing that. Well, thank you for telling me.
Mhm.
Everybody else was like, don't tell her. So we should be on 163,
Yeah.
right? Okay. Wow, we are so close. All right, let me make note of that. Tuesday class, we're on 163. Okay, cool. Thank you, Kylie.
Mhm.
We're learning unclear pronouns. Don't you love grammar and English? There's always these unnecessary things, unessential things, non-essential, essential, and then commas, no commas. And so here we go with unclear pronouns. So it says in week 2, way back at the beginning of class, you learned that a pronoun it replaces a noun in order to avoid repetition. We know that. And antecedent is the word that the noun refers to, the pronoun refers to. So if you're talking about a like Mowgli, that's a he. So we would use he in place of Mowgli. That Mowgli would be the antecedent. That's who he is referring back to. Okay, the pronoun should clearly refer back to the antecedent. If the pronoun is unclear, use the person's name. I think this is pretty normal for us. It's going to sound familiar because we have been speaking English since the day you learned how to speak. So this should make sense to you. The first one says Baloo asked Mowgli if he wanted to swim. So he follows the noun Mowgli. It is clear that he refers to Mowgli. This is a clear pronoun. But check this one. Baloo taught Mowgli how to climb trees and gather honey. He loved to eat it raw. Even though he follows the noun Mowgli, it's unclear whether he is referring to Baloo or Mowgli. This is an unclear pronoun. So sometimes when you're talking about two of the same pronoun, two boys or two girls, then later you refer to them as he or she. That's where it gets a little unclear and a little confusing. So this is how they recommend you solve that problem. Baloo taught Mowgli how to climb trees and gather honey. Mowgli loved to eat it raw. Now it's clear. So just if you have two characters and you're referring back to one of them and they both happen to be male or female, that's how you solve it. You just plug their name in there. So for this book, you're just going to place a line through the unclear pronoun and write the person's name above it. Pretty easy. Afraid of Mowgli, Shere Khan fled to the jungle. And instead of saying he saved Akela, because that might imply either Shere Khan or Mowgli, they're going to just cross it out and put his name Mowgli in there. Mowgli saved Akela. That's it. Pretty easy. I don't think there's any on this page, and there's not. Yay! So we're on to the practice page. How about Matt? Could you read the sentence today, please?
Yes. Peering fiercely into his beady black eyes, Mowgli declared a new law stated that he was free to live as he pleased because he had always been their loyal leader.
Yeah, good. It's a little choppy because it's missing some things. We need to fix a couple of things, but nice job reading that. And peering, we know when you peer through something, you're looking like peering through the window. You're looking closely and carefully. Um, okay, so that's a ing word, like a participle. So let's fix a couple things first. Go ahead and check vocabulary. We got that. Peering fiercely into his beady black eyes. And if I think we have to go back to our homework page from yesterday or from this last week because I think he's looking into more than one person's black eyes. Let me go back here. Let me see here. What happened right before? Ah, I'm looking back on page 162 in my other book here. And he positioned himself between Aquila and the other wolves. So what's going on here is he's looking into their eyes, right? He's not just one person's eyes, it's actually the pack there. So let's change his to there. I don't know if you picked up on that from the last lesson that you did. And then right here, Mowgli declared a new law. Who is not going to be correct right there? Kylie, what should we put there instead?
Which?
Yeah, because we're talking about a law, which is a thing, not a person. So let's fix that one. Those are the two usage errors, so we'll check that. I know sometimes you guys like to do the fix it column first, so how about we jump up to the capital? That's an easy one. And remember now, we don't really know how many commas we're going to fix, so we got that. Let's come back to that. And then we've got the end mark. We can do that one. That's just a period. The unclear pronoun. So, who is it that they're talking about that's free to live as he pleased? Because this is the unclear pronoun right here, that he. Kylie, who do you think it's referring back to?
Aquila.
Aquila, good. And if you guys get confused over this story, like keeping track of everybody, the actual story is in the back of the book. You probably read it, Kylie.
I've been looking back on it.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, you can look back on it. Don't use it to do your grammar because, you want to try to fix it by yourself. But if you need to go back to refresh your memory on who's doing what and when, at the very back is the whole story. So it kind of helps to get it in your head how it goes. That's the unclear pronoun, though. All right, let's jump to this. We'll come back to the commas because I think we need to figure out these other things first. And like always tell you guys, you can move around on both lists as you're doing your homework. Did you have something to say,
I
Kylie?
think I figured out all the commas.
You did? Okay, well, I don't know if everybody else has yet. That's good that you have. But let's see if we can find the other stuff first. Let's jump down to let's do who which. That one's a pretty easy one. So how about Aubrey? Where's the who which clause?
Which stated that he was free.
It's actually because we have that word that, and we also have a that clause. Yeah, it's just which stated. It's a short one. So Ian's coming in. Ian, we're on page 165. So it's just the two words, which stated. That's the which clause. And then I kind of already gave away the that clause. But Alex, where's the that clause?
That he was free to live.
Good. And I'm glad you didn't go any further than that because we also have an adverb clause. So let's see. How about Matt? What's the adverb clause?
Um,
You remember what the adverb clause starts with?
an adverb and a verb.
It starts with the Asia word. That's the adverb clause.
Uh,
You remember what those words are?
oh, when, while, where, as, if, although, because.
I think you just forgot since, but yeah, everything else is good. So I do see one of those words. Do you see it there?
Because. So from because to the end.
Actually, there's two adverb clauses. So you're right about that one. Because to the end, that's one adverb clause. I just noticed that there's actually two in a row. Do you see where the other one is?
Um, no, I don't.
It's right here as, right before that.
Oh,
As is an Asia word. So as he pleased. So this is kind of new for us, having all these clauses in a row. We've got a which clause, a that clause, and two adverb clauses. There is a main clause. Kylie, where's the main clause?
Locally all the way to the new law.
Good. Mowgli to the new law. Very good, because this is going to do something else at the beginning here. So we are not going to count that as the main clause. So we've got main clause, which clause, that clause, and two adverb clauses. This thing is full of clauses. Wow. How about the prepositional phrase, Aubrey? Where is that? I know you had it, Kylie, by the way. Go ahead, Aubrey.
His beady black eyes.
Into his beady black eyes, or into there, really. Did you fix that already, Aubrey? Instead of his, it's there, because it's talking about this pack. Okay. Where are we? Let's see. We got that. How about this? The verbs. Ian, are you there? Can you hear me okay? Ian, come in, Ian.
Yeah, sorry, I'm here.
Oh, okay. How about are you on the right page yet? 165?
No, but I'll get there.
Okay, I'll come back to you then. 165 is where we're at. So how about Alex, where are the verbs here?
Declared,
Good,
stated,
good,
was,
good.
live,
That one's actually not because of the word to. Remember, whenever we have to next to it, this is an
Okay.
infinitive, so we're not going to count that one.
pleased,
Yes,
had,
good.
and been.
And been, good. And each of those clauses have a verb, so great job with that. Each of the clauses also have a subject. So how about Kylie, where are the subjects?
Mowgli,
Mowgli's one, yep.
which,
Yes,
Hila,
good,
he,
good,
he.
good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's all of them. Very good. So remember the difference between clauses and phrases. Like here's this phrase, this prepositional phrase, into their beady black eyes. That does not have a subject or verb pair. So, but all the clauses do. That's a rule you need to remember. There is an opener. So Matt, do you know what kind of an opener this is?
A verb or adverb opener.
Adverb opener would be ly. So no, it's not an adverb opener. If you guys forget your openers, you can always look at back at the front of the book. Remember that little list I showed you?
Yeah.
Peering.
I'm sorry, it's an ing opener.
Yeah. Do you remember what number it is?
Uh, I don't know.
It's a 4.
What page is that again? I don't remember the page that was on.
Yeah, okay, good question. So at the very front of your book, I'll show you with my other book here. It's gonna be, it doesn't have a page number, but it's about, let's see, 1, 2, it's about 4 pages in. It's like this. It's a chart. It's a few pages in. Look for where it says stylistic techniques.
I found it.
Okay, so you got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're all right here. So if you ever forget, by the way, if you tab this page, that might help you too, like with a post-it note.
Okay.
But yeah, number 4, ing opener. Good job. Okay. And the last thing we got to do is the commas. I know Kylie thinks she has it figured out. Anybody else think they know where the commas go in here? Or how many commas? Aubrey, you got it figured out?
Is it after eyes
It's after eyes is 1.
and after law?
And after law. Is that what you were going to say too, Kylie?
Yes.
Yes, good. That's it, just those 2. So it gets a little tricky now that you don't know how many, but the good news is you won't be taking out commas. You're only putting in commas now. but you don't know how many you need. But after this one, because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words in that prepositional phrase, that requires a comma. That's the rule for that one. And then anytime you have a main clause before a who, which clause or an adverb clause or any of the other clauses, then you have a comma there too. I think we did it. Did we do it? I think we did it. Okay, good. Okay, so we're done with grammar for today. You're going to do the next few pages for your homework. And today we're going to start a new project, a brand new project. And honestly, I'm excited about this one. And when I say project, I mean paper project, pretty much the same thing.
So we're writing it down.
Writing what down? Well, it's not in your binder. I'm going to tell you that much. So hopefully your parents got my email early this morning and printed something for you. Did they get to do that? Do you guys have it printed? Some of you saying no. Okay, that's okay. I'll share it on my screen. Good. I see yours, Aubrey. So we are not going to work in our binders anymore. That's the big news for the rest of the school year, which is about 6 weeks, counting this week. So we're going to do a research paper. Yay! I know some of you are like, but research papers, in my opinion, are pretty fun to do. And I really like this one because I think I told you guys a little bit about it before, but you're going to write about the United States Constitution. So we're going to focus on US history a little bit for the rest of the school year and really look at the Constitution and the amendments, especially. And you're going to learn what they are. What's that, Kylie?
I love the Constitution.
Me too. That's why I'm really excited about this. I think it's good for you guys to learn this young because it'll hopefully spark an interest in your mind to want to learn more. I mean, people study the US Constitution and that's all they do. I mean, it's a lot to learn, but we're going to get just an introduction to it and what the amendments are. And did you know, have you heard of, I'm sure you've heard of it, but have you heard about the Supreme Court? And the Supreme Court, I see your hand there, handles cases in our federal government. So basically, the Supreme Court is the highest court system. We have local courts, like if you live in Bakersfield, there's a court in Bakersfield, and then you have like county courts in Kern County, and then you have state level courts, and then you have national level courts, which is what the Supreme Court does handle big cases. You've probably seen some on the news before, but every time there's a case in the Supreme Court, they use the Constitution to understand how they're going to handle the case. So basically, there's two sides to the case. Somebody's upset, so they're suing somebody. And there's a reason they're suing someone. And whoever that is the person who gets sued, I'm giving you basic language here, but we'll get deeper into it as we go, can defend themselves using one of the amendments or more than one of the amendments to the Constitution. So if a case goes to that level at the Supreme Court, it's really important for everyone to understand the amendments and what our rights are as American citizens. So this is something we're going to learn. And we're going to also be researching cases, Supreme Court cases, because they've been going on for a long time in our country. So there's a lot of cases to look at. And you're going to be choosing one and writing about what the case is, what happened to the people. And they're severe. Some of them have to do with severe crimes. So it's interesting to research this. So what I wanted to do first is just show you a couple little videos so that you can understand what the Supreme Court does. And then we're going to look into all of the 27 amendments and see what those are about so that we can get a better understanding of the process of the court system at the Supreme Court level. So let me pull up this first video and we'll talk about it after it's done here. So let me do that.
Of the three branches of government, the legislative, the House of Representatives and the Senate, the executive, the president, and the judicial, the Supreme Court and the lower federal courts. Which is the most powerful? Today, most people would probably say the judicial. It's the Supreme Court that has the final say over every controversial issue. Prayer in school, abortion, same-sex marriage, let the court decide is the modern refrain. But that's a long way from how the framers saw the role of the courts. Let's look at what the Constitution says. Article 3, Section 1 vests the nation's judicial power in a Supreme Court and any lower courts that Congress may establish. The judges, both of the Supreme and inferior courts, shall hold their offices during good behavior and shall receive for their services a compensation which shall not be diminished. By good behavior, the framers meant lifetime tenure. As long as federal judges didn't do anything worthy of impeachment, they had the job for life, or until they chose to give it up. The purpose of lifetime tenure and salary was to place federal judges above politics, to make them independent of the legislative and executive branches. In this way, they would act as another check on the power of those two branches. Yet for all that, Alexander Hamilton thought the judiciary was beyond comparison the weakest of the three branches. Boy, was he wrong. But not in his assessment of the judicial branch as spelled out in the Constitution. As Hamilton explained, the executive bears the sword, or the power to coerce. Congress sets the rules and controls the purse, the federal budget. But what weapon did the judiciary have? Hamilton couldn't see any. He couldn't see any because he and the other framers never imagined that the court would be the ultimate arbiter of what was constitutional and what wasn't. They saw the court as having a much more limited function, as we shall see. The Constitution doesn't even state how many justices there should be. That was set by the first Congress of 1789. They set the number of justices at 6, which, to our modern sensibility, is bizarre. What would happen in the case of a tie vote? Again, this points to the framers' modest conception of the court. As spelled out in Section 2 of Article 3, federal courts have just one job: to settle disputes about the rights of the parties before them, not to use cases as platforms to resolve policy debates. For the framers, setting policy was the job of the people's elected representatives. What about the ability to declare laws unconstitutional? Didn't that belong to the courts? Yes, but that didn't make the courts the only authority on the Constitution. As understood by the framers, the legislative and executive branches have their own duty and power to interpret the Constitution when doing their jobs. For example, presidents have vetoed bills they considered unconstitutional. That's what Andrew Jackson did when he refused to recharter the National Bank in 1832. He didn't think the Constitution gave Congress the authority to establish such an institution. True, the President and Congress have usually followed the court's readings of the Constitution as a way of avoiding unnecessary conflict. But there have been exceptions. Most famously, Abraham Lincoln rejected the Supreme Court's holding in Dred Scott v. Sanford that the Constitution made African descendants of slaves ineligible for U.S. citizenship. As president, Lincoln respected the court's decision about what should happen to Scott, a party to the case. But otherwise, in running the executive branch, Lincoln followed his own view that persons of African descent could be citizens under the Constitution. For example, he gave them U.S. passports. Today, by contrast, many think the judiciary is exclusive and superior in its power to interpret the Constitution. No wonder it seems like the most powerful branch. The framers, who had so carefully constrained the power of the courts in Article 3, would have been surprised and dismayed. I'm Sharif Girgis, Associate Professor of Law at the University of Notre Dame for Prager University.
Okay. So I know that's a lot to take in, but so the Supreme Court really does have a lot more power than the founders, our founding fathers, originally intended it for it to be, because when they decide on a case, whether to rule in favor or not in favor of whatever the case is, it does affect our laws and it does affect policies. So it's really important to understand some of the cases that we've had in our history of the United States to understand why some of the laws are the way they are. So I want you guys to look at your paper that some of you had printed. If you don't have it printed, I'm going to pull it up here. We're going to look at the one at the top where it says, oops, hold on. The U.S. Constitution is laid out in a structured format, and you'll see the word preamble there. So I'm going to look at that one first with you. Share that in case you don't have it. So the Constitution of the United States has different parts to it, which we're going to look at here. The preamble, well, first it just says it's laid out in a structured format with several key parts, each serving a specific purpose. Here's how it's organized. Let me see if I can zoom in on this in case you're looking at this with me online here. Zoom in a little bit. Oops, that didn't work. Hold on, where's my zoom? Well, why isn't it wanting to zoom? Here, let me just zoom this way. My fingers, that works so much better. Okay, whoops. Okay, ignore my technical difficulties here. All right, the preamble. It's a short introductory statement. Does anybody know what the preamble is to the United States Constitution? It starts with "we the people." And we don't have enough time to go into the whole thing, but it basically lays out the purposes and goals of the Constitution for our country. I will attach one of my favorites. You guys know I love Schoolhouse Rock.
I have a copy of it somewhere.
Okay. There's a video from the 70s. It's an animation video of the preamble, and that's how I learned it. So I'm going to attach it to your homework so you guys can watch that. But try to memorize it. It's good to know what it says, but it's basically starts with what it says right here on the paper: "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union." So what they wanted to do is there were 13 individual states at the time, those original colonies, and the founding fathers, including George Washington, wanted to make sure that they were a unit, like a union together. So uniting them together, in that process, they wrote the Constitution so that they could unite together. There are 7 articles in the Constitution. It says these are the main body of the Constitution. Each article covers a broad area of government. I'm not going to read all of this, but just know that Article 1 is the legislative branch. Article 2 is the executive branch. And then Article 3 is the judicial branch. The judicial branch includes the Supreme Court, which is what we talked a little bit about a minute ago. The executive branch is the president and his powers. And then the legislative branch, that's the smaller elected units of people like Congress, House, and state. Okay, that's how the basic format of our government, that's how it's set up. Article 4 are the state's powers and limits. So that's each individual state. Article 5 is the amendment process, because they knew that at that time that our country would evolve and times would change and there would be reasons to amend the Constitution, which means to add to what the original Constitution was written. Not take away, but add to. And then Article 6 is the federal power. That is, again, in the supreme law. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. And then Article 7 is ratification. It describes how the Constitution was ratified. That word ratified just means each individual state had to sign agreeing to what the Constitution said. So it's basically making it a legal document, everybody signing, saying, yes, I agree, we will participate in this with you. And then there's 27 amendments. After the original was written, they amended it 27 times. So it's changes or additions to the Constitution. I'm at the bottom of that first page. And then the first 10 amendments are called the Bill of Rights, and it guarantees civil liberties such like free speech, religion, etc., which we're going to look at together in a minute. And then later amendments after the first 10 had to do with abolishing slavery, granting women the right to vote, and lowering the voting age to 18. So if you turn that page over to the back, all of the amendments are listed here. And it just says at the top, the United States Constitution has been amended 27 times since its ratification in 1788. The first 10 amendments collectively are known as the Bill of Rights, were ratified in 1791. These amendments protect fundamental rights and liberties, including freedom of speech, religion, and the press, and the right to bear arms. So I want you to have this in front of you, this page in front of you. I'm going to show you one more video that's going to explain each one of these amendments a little bit. It's not very long. It's a short video, so it's going to be quick, okay? But as you're listening to all of these amendments, I just want you to put a little check mark or a little star next to the amendment that stands out to you that you're interested in learning more about, okay? And you can pick as many as you want. But just as we're listening to this, just put a little check mark on your paper or write it down if you don't have this paper yet. You just get out a lined piece of paper and write down the number of the amendment that you're interested in. Does somebody have a question for me? No? Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and play this next video. And then, like I said, put a check or a star or write it down somewhere what amendments you're interested in learning more about, because some of them are going to stand out more to you. Whoops. Okay. I am having technical issues today, but that is all right. We are going to get through this. Some days it just feels like nothing wants
Hey
to
everyone, big heads up. Hey
cooperate.
Leona.
Hang in there with me.
First Amendment. It protects.
Okay. We got this. We got this. Here it comes. Here it comes. All right. And in the middle of this video, by the way, is a big ad. So I'm going to fast forward through that ad. But anyway.
Protects individuals' rights to express ideas, practice any religion or none, report news, gather in groups for peaceful purposes, and request government changes without fear of retaliation, ensuring a foundation for democracy and personal freedom. It basically guarantees freedom of speech, religion, press, assembly,
The
and
First
petition.
Amendment.
Second Amendment protects the right to keep and bear arms, allowing individuals to own weapons for personal safety, defense, and recreational use. It supports the concept of self-defense and the collective security of a free state, reflecting historical importance placed on militias and individual rights. Third Amendment prevents the government from forcing citizens to house soldiers in their homes during peacetime without consent. This amendment addresses grievances from colonial times under British rule, emphasizing the importance of privacy and property rights in a free society. Fourth Amendment protects individuals from unreasonable searches and seizures, requiring law enforcement to obtain a warrant based on probable cause for such actions. It ensures privacy and security in personal property, reflecting a balance between individual rights and the needs of law enforcement. Fifth Amendment provides protections in legal processes, including protection against self-incrimination, guarantees due process of law, prohibits double punishment for the same charges, and ensures compensation for the taking of private property for public use. It safeguards personal liberties and property rights in court. Sixth Amendment ensures the right to a fair and speedy trial, the right to know the charges, confront accusers, obtain witnesses in defense, and have legal representation. This amendment is fundamental to the justice system, guaranteeing a fair legal process for criminal defendants. Seventh Amendment guarantees the right to a jury trial in civil cases involving disputes over property or money, preserving the role of juries in the legal system. It reflects the historical importance of jury trials in protecting individual rights against arbitrary government action. Eighth Amendment prohibits excessive bail and fines and cruel and unusual punishment, ensuring that penalties are fair and proportional to the offense. This amendment reflects society's values on humane treatment and justice, preventing the government from imposing overly harsh penalties. Ninth Amendment states that the enumeration of specific rights in the Constitution does not mean that people do not have other rights that are not listed. This amendment protects unenumerated rights, acknowledging that individuals hold more freedoms than those explicitly mentioned. 10th Amendment clarifies that powers not delegated to the federal government by the Constitution, nor prohibited to the states, are reserved to the states or the people. It emphasizes the principle of federalism by limiting federal power and protecting state sovereignty and individual liberties. 11th Amendment limits the ability of individuals to sue states in federal court, protecting states' sovereignty by requiring consent for such lawsuits. It addresses concerns over state immunity and the balance of power between state and federal governments. 12th Amendment modifies the procedure for electing the president and vice president, ensuring they are elected on separate ballots. This change was made to prevent confusion, promoting a clearer and more effective presidential election process. 13th Amendment abolishes slavery and involuntary servitude, except as punishment for a crime, marking a pivotal change in American society by formally ending the legal institution of slavery and reflecting the nation's commitment to individual freedom and human rights. 14th Amendment grants citizenship to all persons born or naturalized in the U.S., guarantees equal protection under the law, and extends civil liberties. It played a crucial role in civil rights by defining citizenship and ensuring legal protections for all individuals, including former slaves. 15th Amendment prohibits denying the right to vote based on race, color, or previous condition of servitude, advancing civil rights by ensuring that all men, regardless of race, have the right to vote, though actual implementation faced significant challenges. Voting rights will be a key issue as we head into an election year. In November, a federal appeals court decision paved the way for a Supreme video. 16th Amendment authorizes the federal government to collect income taxes without apportioning it among the states based on population, enabling a key source of revenue for the government and supporting the funding of public services and infrastructure. 17th Amendment establishes the direct election of U.S. senators by the voters of the states, enhancing democratic governance by making senators more accountable to the electorate, reflecting a move towards greater democracy and public participation in government. 18th Amendment initiates prohibition, making the manufacture, sale, and transportation of alcohol illegal, aiming to improve social conditions but ultimately leading to unintended consequences and the rise of illegal alcohol trade, demonstrating the complexities of legislating morality. 19th Amendment extends the right to vote to women, marking a significant milestone in the fight for gender equality by recognizing women's suffrage as a fundamental democratic right, reflecting the culmination of a long struggle for women's rights. 20th Amendment changes the dates for the start of presidential, vice presidential, and congressional terms and addresses presidential succession, aiming to reduce the period where there's an elected official whose successor has already been elected or will be soon and ensures a smoother transition of power. 21st Amendment revokes the 18th Amendment, ending prohibition and allowing states to regulate alcohol, acknowledging the failure of prohibition and the need for a more practical approach to alcohol regulation and consumption. 22nd Amendment limits the presidency to 2 terms, responding to Franklin D. Roosevelt's 4-term presidency by establishing a formal restriction to prevent indefinite re-election and ensure periodic leadership renewal. 23rd Amendment grants residents of Washington, D.C. the right to vote in presidential elections, addressing the lack of representation for the district's residents and moving towards greater democratic participation. 24th Amendment prohibits poll taxes in federal elections, eliminating a barrier to voting for low-income individuals and advancing civil rights by ensuring that the right to vote cannot be conditioned on economic status. 25th Amendment clarifies presidential succession and procedures for addressing presidential disability, ensuring continuity and stability of the executive branch by providing clear guidelines for transferring power in cases of incapacity. 26th Amendment lowers the voting age from 21 to 18, recognizing the maturity and citizenship responsibilities of younger adults, particularly in light of military service, and expanding democratic participation. 27th Amendment delays congressional pay changes from taking effect until after the next election, ensuring that legislators cannot immediately benefit from their own decisions regarding salary adjustments, promoting accountability and fairness. Shout out to these guys who are the first.
Okay. That's that. I know that was a lot, but those are the 27 amendments. One of them I wanted to point out, if you look at your paper, is Amendment 18. That was the one that originally prohibited the sale of alcohol. And then later you'll see in parentheses there, it says it was repealed by the Amendment 21. So after that, they agreed to implement the 21st Amendment, which allowed the selling of alcohol, basically. So Hopefully you had a chance to put a check mark or a star by some of those or write some of those down. If you haven't figured it out yet, that's okay. Your job this week for your homework is your grammar as usual, but you're going to focus on research only for the writing part of the class. There is no writing assignment this week, so that's the good news. And I want you to take your time that you would normally be writing a paper to use for research. You're going to spend at least an hour at an hour total looking at Supreme Court cases and amendments and how they play in with each other. So it's going to be a lot of research, and you're going to put down in Google Classroom the cases that you choose and the websites that you found. So the other paper you should have gotten from your parent is the one about how to search for a Supreme Court case. And that paper walks you through the steps. I will attach both of these to your Google assignment this week so you can walk through the steps. I'm also going to walk through them with you right here on the Zoom, and I'm recording this. So on the list, and if you don't have it, just listen. The first step is to go to Britannica.com. That's a good place to start when you're looking for a Supreme Court case. So I'm going to share my screen as I do the research here. And then you'll be doing this part later as your homework assignment. So obviously I went to Google. I'm going to go to Britannica.com. Oh, whoa, what just happened? This is a weird day with. Ay, ay, ay. Hold on. Does this ever happen to you guys where it's like, wait a second, I was doing something and you messed me up? Okay. Try that again. Britannica.com. Why? Why is it doing that? Uh-oh. Sorry, guys. Hold on. Got that. Let's see if I could pull it up and then share my screen. All right, we'll try it this way. Britannica.com. Here we come. For some reason, it didn't like me searching at this. Okay. This is the first page, the home page for Britannica, but you'll see the search bar at the top. I know you guys have used Britannica before, but if you type in there number, and by the way, my numbers also got messed up on that paper you're looking at. There's no number 2, so it's invisible. Go to number 3. It says type in Supreme Court case with amendment blank. So if I put in Supreme Court case with Amendment 8, for instance. And I know that Amendment 8, if I look back on my list, you can see which one that is, prohibits excessive bail, fines, and cruel and unusual punishments. When you type it in Britannica, you're going to have a list of cases. Now, some of them are in the title here, like this one, Roe v. Wade, which you might have heard before. This one's Pelsi v. Ferguson. And by the way, when you're looking for a Supreme Court case, you will see the letter V in the middle. It means versus, it means like there's a battle between the two sides. So there's usually a name or a name of a state on one side or 2 names on either side. And it's a court case, somebody suing somebody. Ingram v. Wright. So and it doesn't say a whole lot in these small descriptions, but just kind of skim through them. This one I'm interested in because it says at the end here, corporal punishment in public schools did not fall ... And I'm thinking that's interesting because as public schools, it has to do with corporal punishment, which is like discipline, okay, in the school system. So when you're interested in something like that, or if it doesn't give you enough description, you can click on it and open it up and it'll give you a description of the case. This is what your homework is this week. You don't have to read every single sentence, but you're going to skim through these cases. It's a lot of legal language. It's a lot to sift through, which I will help you do that. But the first step is to read the first sentence of each paragraph and then skim. You guys know how to do that. We've practiced that in class before, where you're kind of picking out keywords to find in the paragraphs to get a feel for what this is about. So for this one, and I know this one, but if I skim through, the case centered on James Ingram, an eighth grade student in a public junior high school in Florida, who in 1970 was paddled by the principal, Willie J. Wright, while being restrained by assistant principal and the principal's assistant. So I'm going to keep going because that's interesting. Ingram was hit more than 20 times and required medical attention. So this is a case where a student got in trouble, eighth grade, you guys. It's crazy to think this really happened, but this was in 1970. And the way they punished students back then was to spank them with a paddle, which was usually wooden, like a wooden racket, but heavier, and they would get spanked on the butt, or they sometimes would use a ruler and smack them on the back of the hand before. Have you guys heard about that in the past? Anybody share that with you? Maybe a grandpa or great grandpa? Yeah, I see some hands. So that's the way the school system controlled the behavior of the students, was to actually physically discipline them. Well, this principal took it too far, and it became a case. And then it went to the Supreme Court, which is the highest court in our federal government. So this is interesting. So if you like this one, then what you would do is star it, save this page, because this is, how you save your bookmark. And then you can highlight the case like this, Ingram v. Wright. Those are the last names of the two people in the case. And then you would copy that and go open up a new Google, open up a new tab for Google, type or paste it inside the search like this, and enter. Every time I hit enter, why is it doing that? I'm not happy, Bob. I am not happy, Bob. Okay, so I'm going to do this. For some reason, it doesn't want me to do this while I'm on Zoom. So here we go. Okay, so what I just did was put it in Google. Now you want to check with your parents before you just go search Google. Make sure they're good with that. And I recommend them sitting with you to help you kind of sift through some of these. But you're going to see lots of different websites and places to go to find out more information about this case. Now, on your paper that you have, and I'm going to attach this, go to where it says number 6. Look for either a .org or a .edu. Those are more reliable and credible than a .com, although there are some .coms that are okay. But as you search with this with your parent, you'll be able to know if it's a reliable source, if it's got a credible name attached to it, like a university or something that is credible. It's hard to explain in a nutshell, but if you see a bunch of random weird ads, I know I've shared this with you before, like sometimes there's ads like lose 300 pounds in 24 hours or something like that, where it's crazy stuff, right? That's not going to be a good site to go to. Do not use that site if there's a bunch of random ads like that. So you want to stick to either .org or .edu. For instance, this first one right here, oyez, oyez.org. I'll show you what this, oh good, it's going to let me do it. This website looks like, this is like an archive of all the Supreme Court cases that we've had in the United States. And here is this case. There's facts about the case, the question, here's the conclusion. It's kind of interesting. They have pictures of the actual judges that were on the case. So you're going to just kind of scroll through this and skim. Then if you are interested in doing a paper on this, look at your page that I sent your parent, and let me share this with you. Now I'm going to stop this share on purpose because I want to show you the steps. You will choose 3 different Supreme Court cases for your homework. You're going to choose 3 of them, your top 3 picks, because I want everybody to do a different case so that we're not all writing about the same case. So you're going to put down your 3 favorite cases. So here's your example on number 10 here. After researching, make a list of the top 3 choices for amendments with Supreme Court cases that you want to focus on in your paper. So for instance, my first pick would have been the Second Amendment and District of Columbia v. Heller, 2008. And I do want you to include the date on here. I'm going to put a little Google Doc on Google Classroom for you to plug in these names of the cases and then 4 websites that support or that address that case, that talk about that case. Now, if you go to like New York Times tends to bend more on the liberal perspective of things. So just know that when you go to these websites, you want to make sure to find 2 of each side of the case. Those that are in support of one side, like District of Columbia v. Heller. I know we didn't look at that one yet, but so you're going to pick 2 websites that are in support of what District of Columbia was talking about and what they were defending, and then Heller, the other side. So you want to have both sides because whenever there's a court case, whenever somebody's suing somebody else, people tend to choose a side that they believe in or they want to support. Okay. So you want to try to get a perspective of both sides of the case. And then you're just going to cut and paste your address to the website. That's your homework. You're going to do that for 3 different amendments. So here's my second pick, the First Amendment, Bourne v. Flores. And then I'm going to find 3 websites, 2 for Bourne's side and 2 for Flores's side, and list those websites here. They're going to be the actual address of the website. And then let's say my third pick was the 10th Amendment, Goss v. Lopez, 1975. And I'm going to pick 2 websites that focus on Goss's side and 2 websites that focus on Lopez's side. So you're gathering websites. That's all you're doing for your homework this week. It's going to take you a while because you got to sift through a bunch of stuff. This is where I want your parents to help you with it. I did email your parents today, so they know what you're doing, and they will hopefully have time to help you guys go through those websites. So that was kind of a lot to take in. Does anybody have any questions right now about what we're doing or anything that we've talked about today? It's interesting stuff. It's real stuff. This is real life stuff and real cases. And then you're going to see that these cases affected our laws that we have today. For instance, the one we were just looking at, Ingram v. Wright, and the whole issue with the kid that was spanked too hard, 20 times, I think it said. We don't have that kind of discipline anymore in the school system. They made that illegal. So now a teacher or a principal or any staff at a public school cannot lay a hand on a student at all. I mean, I remember when I was in the traditional classroom setting, I could give hugs, but it was like a side hug. You couldn't even really touch a student other than like maybe a pat on the shoulder or a side hug. So it really changed a lot on how we can interact with students now in a public school setting. So lucky you don't have to get spanked anymore. Of course, you're not in the public school system, so maybe you used to be, but can't get spanked at school anymore. That's gone. And that case was huge in changing all of the way that's set up. I could go on and on about that, but all right. So just to recap, you're going to do grammar as usual. Okay. And then your homework this week, I'm going to put everything on Google Classroom. It's probably going to be a lot to look at, but you're not writing anything. You're not actually typing anything as far as a paper yet. We're not starting the paper yet. This week, you're focusing only on research. We're going to break this down into the next 6 weeks. So it's going to be intense for you guys. So I'm not going to have any writing yet, but you do need to organize it like this. You're going to pick 3 cases that you're interested in. One of your websites can be Britannica. And then you're going to find 3 other websites, 3 other articles that talk about the case, and you're going to try to pick 2 of each side of the case, like what supporting both sides. Okay. And you're just going to list all your links to your website so that I can click on it and see the link. So when you attach it to your Google Classroom, I'll be able to click on it and see what you got. Good? You guys good with that? It's good stuff. You're learning about our country. This will stick with you forever, so that's why we're doing it. All right, you guys, that's it for today.
Thank you, Mrs. Narrows.
You're welcome. See you guys next week. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.